And welcome back to the Add 10 Gallons Concrete Podcast. We are joined by a special guest host, the one and only Sarah McGuire from Giatec.
Very happy to be here. Thank you for asking me to do this.
No, we're very happy you're here. This is fantastic because we have a very special guest, Mr. Ron Macken. How are you, Ron?
I'm good.
Thanks
for having me back.
Yeah, for sure. We were all chatting before it started, and I've never seen Ron ever be uncomfortable. You know, we had a nice breakfast this morning together. Thank you for joining us for breakfast. And then as soon as I told him Sarah is going to do all the interview questions, his face lit up like a Christmas tree. So this is going to be great.
Just like my face lit up, going, okay, sure, I can do that. I can do that. No, I'm really pleased to meet somebody that recognizes me from our own podcast. So it's really cool, Ron. I'm excited to meet you.
Yeah, I've met a lot of celebrities today.
Oh, my goodness.
This is nice.
Oh, you got to see Dr. Tyler Lay this morning.
Yeah. And you guys, too. I consider you concrete celebrities.
Ooh, that's big. I'll wait till my daughter finds out.
There's a celebrity for everything now.
Have you ever, like The Rock joined The Rock Johnson or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever, so when he did the voice of Maui, which is a demigod in the movie Moana.
Just watched that second movie this weekend.
Did you really?
Underwhelmed, honestly.
Oh, my daughter said it was great.
No, the first one was fantastic. And then to take 8 years to do a sequel, I'm a very big Disney nerd, though. So I have high expectations. We can get into that at a later time.
No, people are learning about you right now. So when my daughter was like 2 when the first one came out, so it was a big deal, or maybe 1. It was a big deal in our house. I've probably seen Moana 1,000 times, and he was the voice of Maui. Well, when his daughters were also like 2 years old when that movie released, and then they were like 3, 4. They were watching. They loved Moana, and he was like, "Yeah, that guy Maui, he sounds pretty cool, right?" And he was like, and he would try to sing it, and they tell him be quiet. And he couldn't sing.
That's amazing.
That only Maui could sing it. And he was like, "You don't think maybe I sound a little like him?" And you're like, "No, be quiet."
Wow.
It was great. I'm surprised you didn't like the second. My daughter literally said the second one.
And the plot was weak. The songs were not as good as the first one. Road trips with me and my husband are met with a lot of Disney music, and we love the Maui song, the demigod song. This movie just didn't have the same quips, I felt.
I agree on the soundtrack. So she played for me the soundtrack, but there were like 2 good songs, Beyond and Lost.
Yeah, they're good, but Disney's done some pretty epic stuff. So.
Did not see this concrete podcast going in that direction. Back to our guest, Ron Macken. So if you guys don't remember Ron and when he was on the show last time, he is actually a concrete fan who's come from the outside. Ron, if you don't mind, give us 30 seconds on what it is that you do in your real life, the company that you own, and then we'll jump back into the concrete.
Yeah, so my company's called Lightwave Laser. We laser cut decorative panels in metal and wood, and so that's primarily for hotels, restaurants, and a lot of senior living now. So I talk all the time to contractors, architects, interior designers, and we're providing a building material, but I'm not actually, from the construction world directly.
Well, we all get in somehow. So I got in through university. Sarah got in because she got into Giatec, which is a technology company that is servicing the concrete industry, trying to reshape it. You guys were one of the first people I ever heard talking about AI. So I love what you guys are doing. We'll talk about Giatec in a minute. Yeah. With Ron coming in from the outside like that, but you came in from a personal story.
Right. Yeah. So in 2017, in Santa Rosa, there was the Tubbs fire, which burned more than 5,000 houses in 48 hours. My house amazingly survived, but my mother-in-law's granny unit ADU burned down, and we weren't in a big rush to rebuild it. So I just started on this path of what's the most affordable, best way to build a disaster-resistant house. So, of course, concrete is the answer.
Yeah.
But along that, I've learned a lot of stuff about mixed design and admixtures and lots of different things. So anyway, it's been really fun to do. And it's nice to finally be transitioning into building stuff after basically the kind of product development R&D phase of that is pretty much done. And I'm moving on to the next step. The LA fires were really kind of motivating to see, just what an urgent problem this is. And anyway, so.
Ron, I have to ask, because we were talking about this earlier, and the LA wildfires, or the LA fires that we're seeing now, are really hitting like the wealthiest of the wealthy, the big celebrities. And when you hear about why wouldn't you build with concrete, immediately your brain jumps to price. But I think, okay, why wouldn't these Hollywood multimillionaires be able to do that? And you were explaining that it's a lot more complex than that.
Yeah. So price is definitely part of it, the cost, and then just the availability of people that have the concrete expertise to do that work. It's pretty limited. And most people who have those skills are working in the commercial world. So residential, basically they can make more money doing commercial projects than building houses. I mean, there definitely were some houses that, even though it's a home, it's built really to like commercial standards. And, some of those were the ones that did survive. Tom Hanks, his house was one of those ones that was a big concrete house and everything around it burned.
And so what are you doing now? What does your transition look like, and how are you going to help this problem?
So I'm focused on skip panels, which is structural concrete insulated panels. There's basically, if you know what an ICF is, it's kind of the reverse of that. You have foam in the center, which is the insulating, and then there's wire mesh, and it's like a welded truss system. But basically there's 2 inches of concrete on both sides of the panel, and those panels can be used for walls or roofs. So the advantage is that you don't need sheetrock and you don't need anything special on the outside except some kind of, waterproofing paint or stucco or whatever. So basically it's a very simplified wall assembly, and that assembly these skip panels have been around for more than 40 years and almost nobody uses them. So part of the whole kind of puzzle and challenge was to try and figure out, why don't people use these? And if you ask people who, work in this, most of them will say it's about education, it's about knowledge, training, that kind of stuff. But it's really about cost. Okay. It's a combination of it being an unusual way to build. So everything ends up more expensive, from whether it's the general contractor through the plumber and electrician. But I think that the key problem is getting the concrete on the panels. So that 2-inch thick concrete. So what I'm doing, which is catching on with other people too, is to do a cast in place. And so the advantage with that is you don't have to spray concrete. And it's far easier to get a smooth wall if you can just rely on a form. So, and the amount of skill that it takes to install the forms is pretty low. And then if you have the right concrete mix, I'm using SCC concrete mix that actually, Paul, you helped me out with a few years ago. So basically, if you have the right concrete mix and the right forms, then it's a relatively simple process to get that concrete on the panels. And once the concrete's on the panels, then the rest of the construction, whether it's tile work or interior finishes or even the plumbing and electrical, it's not dramatically different from regular stick frame housing. So that's basically what I'm.
And you've got your model home going, or at least your first iteration of homes being built right now.
Yeah. So there's a house that's just finishing up in Rockport, Texas. Richard Sims is the contractor, and he's been working with these skip panels for over 20 years. And it's right on the Gulf Coast in Texas. And so he used, parts of the mix and the form system and everything. And, first one, there's going to be some issues, but overall it went pretty well.
And why there? Why that area in Texas?
So he was just building there and wanted to do it anyway. So it's not like that spot was chosen in particular, but he had gotten frustrated enough with spraying concrete that he was just like done with it. And so he was going to use a regular form system. And then which is a challenge when you have all that foam in the middle and this wire mesh and, truss wires. So basically I showed him what I was doing, and then he kind of instantly said like, oh, okay, I'll do it that way then.
So, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, to have instant buy-in like
that,
that's a real blessing to find a partner like that.
Yeah. There was another guy in Louisiana who built a 250-foot long, 6-foot tall, basically like retaining wall that was for storm surge. The house is right by the ocean there. And so hurricane, but he used the system also. And then I've a couple small buildings, and then I'm ready to do a bigger one later on this year.
What I think is lost a little bit, because we kind of jumped to the ending, like he's built a house and uses skip panels, but you actually researched like every possible way that you could build a concrete home. And
right.
The answer, I think we talked about it briefly at breakfast, but I actually don't even remember the answer. So I'm going to ask again, is why not 3D print the concrete home? Like, what's the value of doing the skiff versus like 3D printing?
Right. So in one sense, they're very similar. You've got concrete on the outside, and then some form of basically when they 3D print, you're printing the two outside sections, and then you have some kind of insulation, and wires and plumbing are going to run in the interior of those two things. So the basic benefits and all that are the same, but the difference is that they're still working on 3D printing being a structural. So typically you've got posts in the corners with rebar, and that's what holds up the roof. With these skip panels, they have ICC code approval, and they're load-bearing structural walls, so you don't have that additional step. And if you're working with skip panels, it's in comparison, it's pretty low tech. You're essentially got a concrete mix and forms, and you're filling it up, but there's no, really expensive machine that needs to be set up on site, calibrated and all that. So I think who knows where 3D printing will end up, but until it's a structural wall, I think that's a big disadvantage.
Could you grout fill a 3D printed concrete wall to make it structural, make it load bearing?
So one of the problems, they're always fighting cold joints. You put down a layer, and then you've got to come back around at the right time where it just starts to set up, but you don't have, so that's one of the tricky things. And that they'll insert some like wire kind of reinforcements, but it's not like a monolithic, where you've got steel or rebar or whatever throughout the whole structure of that whole wall.
I have to say it's phenomenal that you researched all of this starting 2017, really, and you're now speaking this. Excuse me.
You start that whole line over.
I have to say it's phenomenal that you are able to speak to all of these details, considering you have really self-researched.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, it sounds like you, and while you were saying that your first World of Concrete was 2021.
Yeah.
Was it? That was an interesting time to go. It was the only time I've ever not been since I've been in the industry, because we were very locked down in Canada. I was very jealous seeing all of your videos from this podcast kind of coming around. But what was your first impression, and that was your first time at World of Concrete ever? I'm curious to know what your first impression.
Yeah. Well, I had told somebody that I wanted to apply concrete on the skip panels myself, and they told me that was a horrible idea, and that concrete was really complicated, and that I didn't understand it. And one person told me my house was going to look like a Hobbit house.
It's a look.
So I don't know, my stubbornness or whatever, it just pissed me off that somebody told me that
I couldn't
do it. So I'm like, well, if I need to learn about concrete, I'll go to World of Concrete, and, I'll get into it that way.
Wow.
But, and, Paul, you and I have talked about this before. I mean, one of the things that blows me away about the concrete industry is how helpful people are. I mean, I reach out to people, and almost everybody helps me out, which, like my day job, I mean, it's not like that with architects and other people. And so anyway, I mean, I continue to be appreciative of that. And it's the way that I've been able to learn a bunch of stuff in the last 4 years is, if I get stuck on something or have a question or whatever, between the stuff that's just available out there and then being able to, email and ask somebody a question or something. So anyway, I think that's a key part to it.
Well, and now you're paying it forward by coming on here and teaching us all why we should build more homes with concrete. So there you go.
Well, yeah, I haven't thought about it that way.
It's coming full circle.
Yeah, no, it is. I do get calls now of people who, are asking me about mixed design and all that. And it is fun.
Well, actually, speaking of that, if someone hears this from World of Concrete and wants to get in touch with you, what's a way they can reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, they can definitely email me. Is probably the easiest way. You want to put that in the notes?
Yeah, I can put it in the show notes. You can provide it after, or you say it on here, either way. Yeah, definitely want people to be able to reach you.
Myself included.
Okay, well, so you guys hear that. We'll put it down in the show notes. So if you guys could just open up the episode on whatever app you're listening to it in, and you'll see it right there at the top in contract, Ron Macken, and find out what he's doing with all these panels. But yeah, it's great. It hits close to home right now when LA is on fire and you see all these houses burning down, and nobody wants to see that. Mm-hmm. I would remark that when you look at those pictures, people are like, oh, that one house, I saw a lot of things online, like, how come that house is standing?
Right.
Yeah.
I know exactly why that house is standing.
Right.
It's because it was built out of concrete.
Right.
And there's hurricane photos that are exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, we had tornado photos in Alabama, same thing. whole neighborhood to be flat and there'd be one house left. It was the only one made out of concrete.
Wow. We just get a lot of ice, so not quite,
Yeah,
not quite the same up north.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think Sarah, you might be more well known than we are. So for those that don't know, she's up in Canada where it's really cold right this minute.
It's so cold that, a couple of weeks ago, the whole Northeast was getting just mountains of snow and everyone was complaining. And for us, we were just a little too north. So it was actually too cold to snow. At those temperatures, it just kind of precipitates right in the air. So fun times. We're not out frolicking in that weather, though, to be clear.
Thank you for coming on here and being a guest host of our show. Before we let people go, I did want to mention what Giatec's doing right now. Last week, you announced your new little product, which is pretty fancy. I love that it just sticks on the truck. That's so cool.
Pretty neat.
But just give us the 1 minute version here because I want people to know about this.
So Mix Pilot is something that we've been working on with a few industry partners, ready-mix companies, and a couple of other solutions partners for the last about year. I'm making sure that we got it right. So it was actually this time at World of Concrete last year that I was carrying that little sensor around with me in my purse and saying, soon you'll be able to manage your slump and monitor your slump with this little gadget right here. And of course, people didn't believe that because basically Mix Pilot is a sensor that goes onto the truck. It uses pressure gauge, pressure sensor. It uses a pressure sensor, a sensor that goes onto the drum of the truck, and then there's a gateway that picks up the readings. And essentially, based on the readings that we're getting from the revolutions and other properties from that drum sensor that sticks on, matched with the pressure sensor, what we're getting from that, we're able to use calculations to actually give you the slump in real time, so without having to do a calibration. And as a company that was doing a lot on mix design, mix optimization, one of the things that we were finding that was really challenging is people would be able to optimize their mixes, but they would hit a point of resistance when they have to add so much over design to their mixes to account for all the variability that is happening. And we can actually quantify that in SmartMix, our system, and we can see the dollars and cents that are being lost essentially due to variability that if we are able to actually manage the concrete quality from plant to pour, NRMCA estimates it's about 80 pounds on average, which is roughly 15%. So when we talk about the necessary over design, which is there, where there's 15% more that we can be working with, that truly is in the producer's control. It's really, really tough. And when we were looking at other solutions, we just saw that a lot of them required a lot of heavy maintenance, and that's why the adoption was really low. So we worked on a simple solution that you plug and play. And we were asked yesterday, how long does it take to install? You do it. 15 minutes out of the box, it should be good to go. Plug it in with their software and it's easy breezy. That's the point of everything we do.
Yeah, fantastic. Saw the little demonstration you did yesterday. Hooks up to digital fleet, overlays on everything. Your softwares that could integrate with that. If they're using other companies that also have solutions that go into the hatch, again, this one does not. It sticks on the side of the truck. But the ones that go into the hatch, like it can actually sync up and just help support those. And if some of those other technologies, if you think as a company, you've hit a roadblock there with those, maybe you're not getting everything out of it, this might be an opportunity to use something different to supplement or even, enhance or move away from. You can get all that control from Giatec. You guys, every year you're coming up with something.
Yeah, we need to cool it a little bit.
Well, how many concrete companies employ that many data folks? Like half your team is just we data engineers back there with the computers.
We have actually, we have two separate software teams actually, because we have kind of different business lines right now. We have our really mature products, which are the sensors that go into the concrete. And then we have our really rapidly evolving products. And those take very different states of efficiency, really. So they've actually we almost have two business units within the company. So I'm doing the sales and marketing on the business unit that's supporting the newer products. And then there's a whole other business unit essentially that supports the more mature products. So we've got concrete scientists in there. We've got AI researchers, but we have a lot of civil engineers in there that really know what they're doing. And we'd like to kind of bring them out to be able to meet as many people as possible. But they are working on some really, really cool stuff right now and really training up our AI algorithms to do even more. The more we learn from the industry, the more we realize that there's fine-tuning and opportunity.
Great. We're going to put your contact information in the show notes as well. So Ron, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Ron, it was really nice meeting you.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Sarah, thanks as always. And guys, that is going to wrap it up here for this edition of the At 10 Gallons Concrete Podcast from the World of Concrete 2025.